All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're tackling a big one from Domain B, Section B.18, Rule-Governed versus Contingency-Shaped Behavior. And listen, this isn't just some small detail. It's a solid 14% of your exam. But honestly, forget the exam for a second. This concept is everything. It's the core of how we teach, how we understand behavior. Getting this right will absolutely change your clinical game.
So, let me ask you this. How do you learn something new? Are you the kind of person who just dives in head first, gets your hands dirty, and figures it out as you go? Trial and error? Or are you the one who needs to read the entire IKEA manual step by step before you even think about picking up a screw? Well, these two approaches, they're pretty much exactly what we're talking about today.
So we've got learning by doing, and we've got learning by directions. We're going to break down these two fundamental paths of learning. And I'm telling you, once you can really see the difference between them, it's like a light bulb goes off. It just changes how you analyze everything in your practice.
Okay, first up, let's go down what I call the path of experience. This is where we find contingency-shaped behavior. Think of this as learning the old-fashioned way, behavior that's shaped directly by the consequences of your actions, sometimes in a pretty harsh way.
So here's the textbook definition. The two words you absolutely have to burn into your brain are direct experience. This is behavior that you learn because you have felt the consequence yourself, and usually that consequence happens right away. There's no instruction book, no one warning you what might happen. It's just you, what you did, and what happened next. These examples, they hit the nail on the head. You touch a hot stove once. That immediate searing pain teaches you something real fast, right? That's contingency-shaped behavior in its purest form. Or think about getting a speeding ticket. That sinking feeling and the hit to your wallet, that direct, unpleasant consequence, it's going to shape how you drive. In every single one of these, the behavior changed because the person personally and directly felt the consequence. The environment itself was the teacher. All right, let's pivot and walk down that second path, the path of the rule book. This is the world of rule-governed behavior. And this is a totally different ballgame. Instead of learning from our own direct experience, our behavior is now guided by a description of what could happen, what a sign says, what a parent told us, or what the law dictates. Now, the absolute key here, the thing you can't forget, is that the controlling variable is verbal. It's a rule, an instruction, a written policy, a visual schedule. Your behavior is following that verbal statement, usually to get some kind of consequence that's way down the road, or maybe even to dodge a bad one you've never actually experienced yourself. And these examples are just perfect. Most of us stop at red lights, right? But it's not because we've all been in an accident from running one. We're just following the rule. We buckle our seatbelt not because we've gotten that ticket, but because we know the rule exists. We change our oil not because our engine is seized up on us, but because a mechanic gave us a rule. Change it every 6 months. And that helps us avoid a massive delayed disaster. In every case, the words are doing the work. Okay, this is it. This is the moment that makes or breaks you on the exam. Nailing the difference between these two really just comes down to spotting one thing. What is actually controlling the behavior? So let's put them side by side and really dig in. Look at this. This slide is the whole shebang. For rule-governed behavior, the thing in control is a verbal statement about what will happen. For contingency-shaped, it's controlled by a direct history of it actually happening to you. So, bottom line, it's words versus experience. That is the fundamental difference, and you have got to know it cold. This table right here is your cheat sheet, so let's walk through it. Let's start with control. For contingency-shaped, it's all about direct experience. For rule-governed, it's a verbal stimulus, like a rule or an instruction. How about learning? Well, contingency-shaped is classic trial and error. Rule-governed is all about just understanding the rule. And now, the consequence. This one is huge. For contingency-shaped, it's immediate, it's real, you felt it. For rule-governed, it can be super delayed, maybe even unlikely to ever happen. And that sunburn example at the bottom, it just nails it. Actually getting a sunburn, that's contingency-shaped. But putting on sunscreen because a bottle warns you about skin cancer, classic rule-governed behavior. Okay, let's wrap this up and make it super practical. How does this help us pass that test and, be better at our jobs? On the exam, you need to put on your detective hat. You're hunting for keywords. So if a scenario says a client was told or read a sign or is following instructions, your brain should be flashing huge neon signs that say rule-governed. On the flip side, if it talks about a history of reinforcement or learning through trial and error or a shaping procedure, now you're deep in contingency-shaped territory. It's all about finding that controlling variable.
And here is where it all comes together in the real world. Think about this. When we teach a new skill, we almost always start with a rule. We tell a client, first you do your work, then you get the iPad. That's a rule. So at first, them doing the work is totally rule-governed. But after a few times, when they directly experience that awesome immediate reward of getting the iPad right after they finish, the behavior starts to come under the control of that direct consequence. So the rule gets it started, but the direct experience is what keeps it going.
So I want to leave you with this question to think about in your own practice. When you're teaching something brand new, which path do you take? Do you lead with rules for safety and efficiency? I mean, we're not going to teach a kid not to run into a busy street using contingency shaping, right? No way. Or do you use shaping, letting the learner directly feel the consequences of their actions to build more natural, flexible behaviors? The truth is, there's no one right answer. The very best BCBAs know how to dance between both. They use rules to get behavior going, and then they use direct contingencies to make it strong and lasting. And that, my friends, is the art and science of what we do.